Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Trustees meeting for Delhi Township on November the 13th, 2019. We always begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Tonight's moment of silence is our expression of sorrow, sympathy, and support for our friends and family in Dayton for the loss of Detective Del Rio. And as a gentle reminder, we always pray for the safety of our own officers here in Delhi Township. So if I could please, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. All right, we will begin the meeting then with the approval of the minutes. Please, Mr. Luby.
Motion to approve the minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting held on October 30th, 2019, and dispense with the reading.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve bills for payment.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve the payment of overtime for pay period ending October 30th, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion passes. Report from our fiscal officer then, Mr. Luby.
Resolution 2019-193, resolution approving purchase order obligations incurred on behalf of the township by the township administrator, authorizing payment of certain purchase order obligations and dispensing with the second reading.
I will introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Is there any discussion on this resolution?
I second a motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution. Excuse me.
Okay. I second the motion to dispense the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-194, resolution amending the township administrator's spending limit from $750 to $10,000 or less on behalf of the township and dispensing with the second reading.
I will introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
And any discussion on this resolution? Mr. Cameron?
Absolutely. So the spending limit, it sounds like a big jump, but Delhi townships enable their administrators to have a spending limit. Most townships don't do purchase orders. So a purchase order is our system where you ask to spend money as a department head or other. I review it, and then the fiscal officer approves it. Most townships don't do that, so the spending limit comes into play. Like in Clear Creek Township, I could spend up to $2,500 without the board getting involved or without a purchase order. Just turn in the receipt and it gets paid. We do it different here, so this is slightly different than the way most townships do it. But the state gives townships a level that they can authorize their administrator and department heads, even yourselves, to spend up to without coming to the board with specific requests for approval. Delhi in 1988 established a $750 spending limit. We've operated under that spending limit since 1988. So the big jump is really, how many years is that?
A lot.
30 plus years, and the state has raised the limit to 10,000 because that's just the cost of doing business and not encumbering the board with more things than they need to. So the way Delhi currently authorizes spending is anything under $750 goes on a resolution which you just approved. Everything over $750, you sign the purchase order. So basically, you're doing a little bit of everything, and this would change that to be more in line with what the state says is appropriate. Let me back up just a little bit. One of the back and forth I've had with Mr. Pacheco here and in Clear Creek and then other law directors is, where's the appropriate point to put a contract in a resolution to bring in front of you? The state doesn't dictate any particular level. It's more of a, does this feel right, whether it should be in a resolution and should you be authorizing? Otherwise, the law director can review it and we can sign a contract for, doing service somewhere. It's under the spending limit, so to speak. With the $750 spending limit, it really creates a problem because we're not going to put everything in a resolution specifically, when somebody says, can you sign the service agreement? So this spending limit gives it a reasonable line to say everything over $10,000, you're now going to get in a resolution, and it'll be a formal request for that to be authorized. So the $10,000 limit, jumping from the $750 to the state allowed $10,000, gives us some better parameters to now say, if it's over $10,000, it's coming in resolution form, no questions asked. Under $10,000, it goes to the normal purchase order request process.
Doesn't that also expedite our ability to get some of this done? Because if the request comes immediately after a meeting, they could be waiting 2.5 weeks to get a purchase order approved.
I think that's why the state allows you to put spending
Right.
limits in place so that you can do business at a proper speed, at proper amounts. It's just the jump seems big because it hasn't been changed since 1988.
88, yes. This was also a discussion with the Coalition of Large Ohio Urban Townships about the amount. And on the board, there's 12 people, and we were the only ones not with the pace of $10,000. So I think 30 years is long enough, and we need to step it up. So that does not change the fact that our department heads still go to Jack Cameron for approvals.
I mentioned it, but I don't know that I highlighted the purchase order process. So in Clear Creek, which is a township, if it was under the spending limit, you just went and spent against the appropriated money and turned in the receipt.
Okay.
So there was no real process to say that's a good expenditure or not. It was an after-the-fact kind of thing. That's the way the majority of townships do things. In fact, when we switched to the auditor's accounting system, we were the only one that was using the purchase order module, which I was surprised about. So your level of control and review is really well above what most are doing. So there's an A less control or visibility, and you'll still see all the things that are done and through the month. So there's no lack of seeing those things. But this just gives us a better line to say, above we do this, below we do this. Right now it's kind of all over the place.
All right.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
As far as significant transactions since the last meeting, on 10/31, our payroll was $285,000. And on 11/13, we cut a check to Highland for $101,000, which is for the township property and liability insurance coverage through November 1st of 2020. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Luby. Trustee correspondence, Trustee Davis?
Yes, just one briefly, for those that were in attendance at the Veterans Celebration this past Sunday. What an incredible day it was. In every sense of the imagination, the temperature was 20 degrees warmer, the sun was out, it was just a great day, and there were a ton of people that came out. A ton of people just that came out to celebrate our veterans, and a big thank you to Commander Don Osterfeld, who's in the audience tonight. Don, will you stand up for just 1 second? I think everyone knows you anyway, but thank you. Don, the entire Delhi Township Veterans Association, everyone, and of course your main support beam, who's 3 down on your left. Mrs. O, always. So just thank you to everyone who just makes the day, the celebration, an incredible event. And I know that there's an open invite for anyone who would like to come to the Delhi Township Veterans Association meetings. They're open. Feel free to come out and just kind of, again, just be part of the celebration every day, not just one day a year, right? Thank you so much.
Trustee Sturts.
Yes. There's an organization called Ohio Township Association, and this month in our magazine, Delhi Township was named the 55th safest city in Ohio. And that's out of 7,639 townships, cities, and villages. So I just want you all to know you're in great hands out there. When I told the chief, he's like, we're going to strive for 54 or lower. So God bless him. But thank you to the department. As citizens, you should feel very safe. But 55 out of 7,600 is pretty darn good. So thank you for that.
It sure is. On behalf of the board, both Mr. Davis and myself, we want to thank everyone for first coming out to vote. Secondly, we had a great day enjoying being the hospitality car, going poll to poll, and seeing so many of you out to vote. And finally, congratulations, we get to maintain Rose Sturts for another term in office. Congratulations, Rose. And even though unopposed frightened everyone away, we would also like to congratulate the continuing term of our fiscal officer, Jim Luby.
Yep.
Now, we will swear in Rose for her new term in January, but Mr. Luby waits till March because the fiscal officer is not sworn in till March because we hold him hostage to do the audit report due in January. So we will do Rose in January, and Jim we will see in March. So thank you, everyone, for participating in voting and coming out that day. Trustee Davis and I just had a tremendous, long, wet, sometimes cold day, but it was so well worth it. Thank you, everyone.
Madam President, can I thank everybody
Absolutely.
myself? I personally would like to thank everybody who came out also. It was a long 13 hours. It was a long campaign. I want to thank those who voted for me and for all my support system. There's people that put out signs for me for 90 days. We had people that helped distribute information, told people about me, supported me in many, many ways, emotionally, morally, and financially, and I just can't thank them enough, and how excited I am to be able to keep this team together because we all play nice in the sandbox, and it's all for the township. So again, thank you so much.
Great. All right. We are honored this evening with a special presentation. We have from the 1st District Court of Appeals, Judge Russell Mock.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the board, as well as Mr. Pacheco, Mr. Cameron, for having me out this evening, for everyone coming out. I'm sorry, my back, I'm not used to having my back turned, everyone, so I do
And now your back's to the camera.
But I know, exactly, so the back to the camera. So thank you for having me out. My name is Russell Mock, and I am the presiding administrative judge of the 1st District Court of Appeals, which sits here in Hamilton County. Thank you for the opportunity for letting me come out and address this body tonight. I think it's very important, and I think that this body has an understanding of how important our court system is in this state, and how important it is that people know who their judges are. So I'm really going to try and make an effort to get out into the public and talk about our court system and talk about what we're doing locally as well. Just a little bit of background. I'm getting ready to start my 16th year of being on the bench. I was on the municipal court for 11 years before I will be starting my 6th year on the 1st District Court of Appeals. As a municipal court judge, I had about 64,000 cases of experience, and since I'm on the 1st District Court of Appeals, I've sat on a little over 1,000 cases. And I've written 350 opinions since there. Just to give a little background, I was a prosecutor. I was also a private attorney before I went to the court. Speaking of the First District Court of Appeals, Ohio is broken up into 3 levels. We have the Ohio Supreme Court, which sits in Columbus. There are 7. There's a Chief Justice and 6 Associate Justices, so a total of 7 justices. They run statewide. All 88 counties. They handle large constitutional questions, and they have what is called a discretionary jurisdiction. So they really generally get to choose the cases that they want to hear. And they're usually big constitutional cases or a policy decision. And then in the state of Ohio, there's 12 what are called intermediate courts of appeals. I am very privileged and honored to sit on one of those, being the First District. Obviously, 88 counties, 12, those numbers don't match up. There's 3 courts of appeals that are single county. Hamilton County, which obviously is Cincinnati, which Delhi is close. Franklin County, and Cuyahoga County. There's actually districts that have between 3 and 17 counties. And so those Court of Appeals judges hear cases in all of those counties. And so we're pretty fortunate to just have one county jurisdiction. There's a total of 68 appellate court judges, intermediate court judges in the state of Ohio. So I'm one of 6 on the First District Court of Appeals here in Hamilton County. The Ohio Constitution gives everyone the right to one appeal. And we have 3 judges on each and every case to review the case from beginning to end, and then one of us writes a decision where we either affirm, reverse, or modify the lower court's decision. And that goes to the next line of courts in Ohio is our trial courts, which I was there on the front lines for 11 years, and I can tell you it's the most important courts that we have. In Hamilton County, we have the Court of Common Pleas, which there are 14 general division judges on there. They hear everything from large civil cases to felony matters. We have the Domestic Relations Court, which I know Trustee Seavey is familiar with. We have 3 judges on the Domestic Relations Court, which handles family law matters. We have 2 juvenile court judges, which involve offenses, delinquency cases, and custody cases, as well as parental termination cases. And then we have 1 probate court judge. And then the next level below that is we have 14 municipal county judges, which we're the only, just a little fact, we're the only state, we're the only district in Ohio that does our elections by districts like this, which was the subject of a lawsuit that went back to the 1980s, and they decided to carve our county up into 7 different districts in which there's 2 elected from, and we're the only county in the state that elects our municipal court judges that way. So we, on the Court of Appeals, we hear everything. We hear every type of cases. We hear criminal cases, we hear civil cases, family law cases, probate cases, and juvenile court cases. One of the most important areas that I found that since I've been on the Court of Appeals is areas that are important to folks in townships. Immunity cases, political subdivision immunity cases. I'd had very limited practice area when I was in private practice. It's a very important area, and I know it's probably very close to your all hearts as well. Zoning appeals. After there's been a decision from the Court of Common Pleas, and there's an appeal, zoning appeals come up to the First District Court of Appeals. Appropriation cases, which are private property taking cases. We see those on appeal. Public records requests. These are all very important areas of law that affect municipalities and townships that we deal with on the Court of Appeals on a very, very regular basis. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here to talk about getting to know the courts and getting to know the judges, because, as I said, the Ohio Supreme Court has discretionary jurisdiction. They take about 10% of all the cases in Ohio in on a yearly basis. That means it's about 1% of all the First District cases ever go further than our district. And so it's very, very important because 99% of all state court litigation ends in the First District Court of Appeals. And so I'm very proud to be part of that system. We work very hard day in and day out to uphold the law and make sure that the citizens in the First District are getting a fair share. I want to thank everyone again very much for giving me the opportunity to come out. If anyone has any questions about the court system, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions?
No.
Well, again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come out, and I'd love to come back out more and give updates from time to time. And thank you for having me out in Delhi. It was a beautiful night, and as I said to trustees, I live on the east side of town, so my visa expires is about 9 o'clock, so I have to get back over there. So, all right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Judge Mock. I also am a board member of the Ohio Judicial Family Network, and so I have the opportunity twice a year to meet with judges from all over Ohio and listen to a lot of their issues and a lot of their debates, and from a distance I get to see what a quality judges that we have in Hamilton County, and it's well recognized across the state. So thank you very much for your service, Judge Mock. I know it's Court of Appeals is a tough one, and you're there to do the job, and we appreciate it. Okay, getting into our departments now. I have nothing from police. Is that correct, Chief? Okay. Public Works, Ron, anything? All right. Fire Department, Chief Campbell.
Motion to approve the promotion of Kevin J. Kramer from full-time firefighter paramedic to full-time fire lieutenant at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Firefighters Association, effective January 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve the promotion of Scott T. Summers from full-time firefighter paramedic to full-time fire lieutenant at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Firefighters Association, effective January 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Motion
Tell
passes.
Scott there was a deep pause.
Motion to approve the promotion of Brian D. Sunderhouse from full-time firefighter paramedic to full-time fire lieutenant at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Firefighters Association, effective January 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion carries, of which there was no pause. And I would like to say congratulations to these three gentlemen. I know that your process of selection was quite detailed. I know that you had tremendous candidates, and I am so pleased, as is the rest of this board, that these are three gentlemen that are our township firemen being promoted. And I'm just, Chief, it's tremendous.
Thank you. Yeah, certainly. I hope Scott gets a chance to see that on YouTube. The deep pause. No.
I do want to say that because I know Scott pretty well, all of them, and I echo, and I'm sure Rose would too. Outstanding candidates. Good for you. Good for the township.
Yeah, we set out in 2018 with a plan of kind of reorganizing things that would require us to eventually have lieutenants in 2020. And certainly without levy funding and things, these were just, pie in the sky moving forward. So obviously our levy was designed to accommodate this change in 2020. I'm glad to see it come to fruition. It is a tough selection process. We had 8 candidates, and I could have promoted any of the 8, and I think we would have done just fine. But ultimately, it came down to these 3 that were made the offer, about a 5-month process. And these are the future officers of Delhi, So when we're long and gone, these guys will definitely step up and take the lead. So certainly I will share your support with them.
I think it was almost 3 years ago, Chief, that we had the conversation about the bench and who would follow if there was ever an opening in your position. And the fact that we had 8, because at that point we were at maybe not 8, okay, maybe none. And the fact that we came up with 8 going through this process with a selection of 3 is just, it's...
No, it's certainly the organization's, moving forward, we're keeping up with the times, and certainly our personnel reflect the best of the best, and they always have. It's just we know we've got a good, well-kept secret here, but service in terms of what we can provide to the public is bar none, without a doubt outstanding.
And the training up at the top. that goes down. So your
Certainly,
officers at the
I mean,
top
we will look
are
to
trained.
these folks to basically take on that role.
All right. Motion, Mr. Luby?
Motion to approve the hiring of Eric L. Godby as part-time firefighter EMT in the fire department at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Firefighters Association upon successful completion of the pre-employment physical, drug testing, and background check effective on November 14th, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes.
Motion to approve the hiring of Curtis D. Souders as part-time firefighter EMT in the fire department at the rate per the collective bargaining agreement with the Delhi Firefighters Association upon successful completion of the pre-employment physical, drug testing, and background check effective on November 14th, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Chief,
Motion
that's,
passes.
that's another outstanding name in fire service with Souders, yes?
Yes.
Yes, this is Chief Souders of Green Township's son. We're happy to have him on board. He served an internship with us, and I know he's excited for a first job and to land this close to where his father is serving as well. We're happy to have Curtis.
Great. Good news from you. Thank you. All right. Parks and Recreation, Mr. Torbeck? And motion, Mr. Luby?
Motion to approve the hiring of Edward J. Conrad as event custodian in the Parks and Recreation Department at a pay rate of $10 per hour upon successful completion of the pre-employment drug testing, background check, and voice stress analyzer effective November 14th, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Conrad. You've been a long time asset, and we're glad you're sticking with us. Thank you. Okay, that motion carries.
Does he have something? Do you have something, John?
Did you have, Mr. Torbeck, did you want to go through
Nope,
your
you guys
calendar?
covered it. You did a great job. We're happy to have Mr. Conrad.
Okay.
No, we're really happy to have him. He's been a long-time partner with the township. It was an easy hire. We're glad to have him.
Great.
Tremendous. Thank you. Administration, I have no agenda items for you. Is that still good? Is that a yes? No. Community Development then, Mr. DeLong?
Resolution 2019-195, resolution authorizing a contract with the Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission for professional and technical zoning services pursuant to Revised Code 519.16, authorizing and directing the administrator to execute the contract and dispensing with a second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Mr. DeLong?
Sure, thank you. This is an annual contract we do with Hamilton County Regional Planning. They do assist us with mapping, also giving us mailing labels for our Board of Zoning Appeals cases and Zoning Commission cases. The contract you see in front of you is a staple contract, which has a lot of detail in it, but we only use portions of that. So it is the same contract they send out to all communities that utilize their services. So.
Okay, thank you.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading? Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes,
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-196, resolution certifying violation abatement at 3940 Delhi Pike to the county auditor for assessment, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution, Mr. DeLong?
Sure, I'm just going to point out this resolution along with 197 and 198. These are properties we already abated earlier this year. I'm just proud I'm not sitting here all night long like usual with a bunch of nuisances, so I'm going to get through this quick. So what you have on the screen is a before and after. The prices that were assessed on these properties range from $544 to $1,577. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-197, resolution certifying violation abatement at 4011 Delhi Pike to the county auditor for assessment, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
Move to dispense with the second reading of the resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading? Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Resolution 2019-198, resolution certifying violation abatement at 4110 Honeycutt Lane to the county auditor for assessment, declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
I introduce and move the adoption of this resolution.
I second the adoption of this resolution.
Any discussion on this resolution?
Move to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
I second the motion to dispense with the second reading of this resolution.
All those in favor of the motion to dispense with the second reading? Yes. Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
I ask one question. On Anderson Ferry, right at Cleander, I noticed the last couple of days, everything has been pretty much moved out to the street, up to the front porch. Is this an active one that you know of? It's right at the intersection of Cleander.
Actually have not gotten a complaint on it. I will check on it tomorrow.
Okay, yeah.
It may be a sit out where they are required to leave it sit out for a certain period of time
Okay.
before they can actually come and clean it up, the
Yeah.
landlord. So it's at the corner of Cleander and Anderson Ferry.
Yeah, if you're heading north on Anderson Ferry, go right down into the hill there. You can't miss it. It's right on the right.
On the
Yeah.
right side. We'll look into
Thanks.
it
Yeah, I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, we do have a few people signed in tonight for public comments, so I will just go over this briefly with you. It's a 5-minute limit, and I will call you to the podium. Please state your name. And my first speaker to sign in is Pat Becker.
Wow. I'm not as fast as you people.
Come on up, Pat.
Old. I've been in my house for 55 years, same site, and that's, what else can I say? You think I can? I'm not sure I can, but when you hear how would I begin to start? It is for the site on Ebenezer Road, and that site is, thanks, okay. That site is, the address is, I'm nervous, 1085 Ebenezer. On Ebenezer Road, I could give you my background real quick. 55 years in the site. 1958 graduate of Mount St. Joseph, coal miner father from West Virginia, alternate delegate to Reagan in 1980 because I was pro-life. They worked so hard, they said, you go, and I went. In the meantime, I only found out about this zoning change 6 days before and I've always been interested in things. As I said, Hamilton County Health Commissioner Secretary, so I've learned a little bit about government, but I've been out of the business for a while. So the zoning change is a concern for me, and I thought I would, and it moved fast. The zoning board approved. I heard about it on Thursday from a friend, and went to the meeting, and it was approved. Now it goes further into the whole process. Do I know the entire process of zoning and request for approval? No. Do I know the people involved? I don't know Mr. Luby, and he's the one that asked for this. And from what I understand, he's a very fine man. In fact, my grandson graduated with him from Elder. So it's all this. You know everybody, and everybody knows each other. If you've been around for 55 years at one site, of course you know everybody. And so with this then, my interest is in keeping that Rapid Run block from Rapid Run to Cleves, Warsaw. I'd like to keep it as beautiful as the sort of country block that is maybe one country block away across from the country club, with all the $700,000+ homes, and it's a beautiful place, that whole corner. Does a township zoning have to have all corners business? This request is going to put an apartment over a $700,000 building project, but it's apartments. And on this section of Ebenezer, one side of the street is pretty much residential. A new proposal for an entire subdivision, homes, not a subdivision. I don't know how you call them today. As you can see, I'm not in the business, so I have ordinary language. I don't have the professional zoning, all this. I haven't taken the time to memorize it. Perhaps I should have. But nevertheless, so there's 33 homes there. There are, let me see, here my note, my other side. 33, 10 at the end of this, where this street belongs on Rapid Run. Remember, there are 10 landominiums valued around $400,000. So with that, those 10 homes and 5 existing homes on the same, on that'd be the east side. You know, there's always east side and west side. We have this whole thing in Cincinnati. There's always the east side and the west side is the best side, you know. I do know a little bit of things like that. So with this then, on the short end, I understand my kids rode Klug school bus. Of course they did. And with this then, so I understand, and that side would be the Klug side. And the Klug side has 4 sites. They sold one to be developed into a $700,000 proposal with apartments up above. And I understand property, believe you me, and I appreciate it. And I want to, my proposal would be to, can we look at a way to keep this part of Delhi Township like the part right by the country club? And that's okay. There are always levels of values of homes. Can we keep this one in the $400,000 to $500,000? 33 homes in the proposed. They've already started the developing. 33 homes. There are at the end of the street are the not condos, the landominiums. That's 10, and that's around $400,000. And I did talk to those people to see, because I only heard about this 6 days before, and I had to take a college class on zoning. Wow. And I've got a lot more to learn. I'm not sure I'm going to spend the time because I'm outnumbered. So with this then, so we have how are we going to do this with apartments then? What else will be asked for? We've set a precedent for the west side, and who's going to develop it? I would prefer we keep building. And there was a new home that was just approved almost at the corner of Rapid Run and Ebenezer. That home is probably around, I didn't get the exact figure, brand new, just built, the zoning was approved.
Right.
$369,000. So that's on that west side of Ebenezer. So you have the east side and the west side and so forth with this. And the majority homes are on the east side. Can we keep that east side? Can the Klugs, they own 3, plus this new one that was just approved with a zoning change with apartments.
Right.
Can we approve then that west side for something similar to the, not the condos, the landominiums? Develop it to keep the value there. So we have this. And the people there, I go to Duber's, they repair my car. I go to Meat Market there. I use that block all the time. So I guess my 5 minutes are up.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Becker, are you about to, sum this
what
up
else
for?
can I say? My proposal is, to be honest with you, I hope you really consider what I've presented. And I would like this block to look as good as the one at the country club, where the Otts knew how to get their work done. And I understand property development, believe you me. I am a coal miner's daughter from a West Virginia holler. I've been around a long time.
Well, thank you for your passion for the
And it
township.
wasn't enough time, but I understand.
Thank you for your passion for the township. I know that I've talked to you, I know that Mr. DeLong has talked to you, and we will continue that conversation. But the board...
I know where it's going.
The zoning board is a separate decision-making body, and they voted to 0, right? Was it 5 to 0, Greg?
I understand that. And I'll go back to my seat now.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, Ms. Becker. Basically, what they've done is they've initiated the code change to send it, or the map amendment to send it to Hamilton County.
Okay.
So Hamilton County will be reviewing it at their December 5th meeting, and then we'll have another meeting with our zoning commission before it comes before the Board of Trustees, which will probably be sometime in January, based on the
Okay.
time frame. So,
Mrs. Becker, did you understand the calendar then?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, I know it's a fast count.
All right. Thank you. All right, I do have a second speaker signed in tonight, and I'm sorry, Rich, I might just butcher your last name, but
There's a little joke behind that one, if I could say without taking up my time real quickly.
it's a gay juice.
In the 3rd grade, the teacher called out Rich Gay Guy, And if you now kids are in the third grade, that stuck with me till a reunion decades later. But it is pronounced Rich Gages.
Gages.
And
Okay,
and I
thank you,
have
Rich.
nothing against people's preference in that manner either. My name is Rich Gages. I reside at 5793 Juvine Way. Tonight I'd like to comment on two topics. First topic, on Veterans Day, a day to recognize individuals who fought for our freedoms, like my close friend who's a disabled veteran, like my dad, whose name is on one of the plaques outside, like the gentleman in the room tonight that we recognized, and millions of others. On Veterans Day, I did a video tour of Delhi Township and some of the architectural buildings. And in part, I also did what's called a First Amendment audit. For those not familiar, a First Amendment audit is when someone simply exercises one of their First Amendment rights to see if government agencies and public employees respect that right. Specifically, they often exercise the right of free press, that is to audio-video record things of public interest from a publicly accessible place. Often they record public employees during the course of their public duties as supported by the Supreme Court rulings. On advice, I do not wish to go into the details of the result of this audit, other than to say that I feel my God-given, constitutionally defined, and likely case law established rights were threatened. Not only my right of free press, but also my right to exist in a publicly accessible area that I was previously told I have the right to be in. Tonight, I'm simply asking that the township respect citizens' civil rights. The second topic is Resolution 2019-194 that was approved tonight on tonight's agenda. I looked to see when that was first made available to the public so that we could research it and provide public input on that resolution before a decision is made. The only thing I could find was tonight's agenda, so it looks like a decision, from what I understand, was made on that resolution prior to the public having an opportunity to provide feedback in a public forum such as this one. And if I'm wrong, I do apologize. I understand that 2019-194 authorizes an increase in spending limit for one individual by over 1,233%. I was told that prior to this resolution, that purchases over $750 spending limit required trustee approvals. I remember a ways back, there were some in Delhi that were not happy with the amount of money the township spent on two signs located in Delhi Pike and on Bender Road. At the time, I called in to inquire and was told the township was putting things in place to better notify the public and to get public feedback on similar large spending items prior to the purchase. I'm
Are you
concerned,
referring to the entrance to Delhi Township?
those signs.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you. I'm concerned that this resolution might be contrary to that accountability measure that was communicated to me. I'm curious if there's any information you can provide to assure the public that checks and balances are in place to mitigate any abuse that could come from increasing an individual spending limit over 1,233%. Over 1,233%. Specifically, the check and balance of the citizens to research and provide feedback prior to major purchases. And with that, I thank the trustees.
Okay, thank you. Law Director, do you have any comments to this?
Just two briefly, one on 2019.
I don't think your mic is on.
On 2019
Thank you.
dash 194, the limit was actually pushed to $15,000. So you're not even going to the extent of your limit that the General Assembly said you should have to modernize as a township. The board is very clear that I believe the last time this had been increased was when I was a sophomore in college, which is a long time ago. And government operations have gone beyond that. And I think President CVU made the point that you're on this council with other big townships, and you were the one of only 12 that kept it at that level. So all you're doing is doing what the General Assembly has said is a best operating process, which is to up that amount. And as Mr. Cameron pointed out, it's really not a practice change, because you're going to see the expenses one way or the other, either specifically through a resolution, or you're going to see it on a list, not on the purchase orders anymore, but you're still going to see it on a list. So it's really not a change in practice in terms of your oversight and your approval. It's really a change in practice so that Mr. Cameron can be able to pay bills, and so that people who do township relative business with the township can get paid quicker and may have more flexibility and come up with the times. That's point one on 2019-194. Point two, and by the way, that's been in place since January 1 of 2019. So it's not like the board just willy-nilly thought about that. The General Assembly put that in place specifically so the board could have that option. Point one. Point two, with respect to the First Amendment audit, I'm proud, being a law director for now 11 and a half months almost, to see how the township operates within the bounds of the law. But just because you have a First Amendment right to be in a certain place doesn't mean you have a First Amendment right to be everywhere, every time, any place you want it. For instance, you have a First Amendment right to petition the government, but you don't have a First Amendment right to take over the meeting. That's why we can set limits on what your comments are. There are reasonable time, place, and manner limits on any First Amendment right, and that would include taking videos or taking photographs of sensitive areas that aren't that A, aren't public record, and B, would cause potential security concerns. There are also very clear law in the 9th Appellate District where you can be charged with trespass for being on a public property if you are told your license to be on public property has been revoked and you don't leave. So that's very clear law. So the township does an excellent job of complying with First Amendment law, but the township also complies with reasonable time, place, and manner limitations if necessary to preserve its operations so that, again, they can continue to operate for the benefits for the benefit of the citizens of the township. So unless the president has any more questions, that's what I have to say on both those matters.
All right, thank you very much. I'm,
Within my 5 minutes, ma'am?
I think you have like 2.5 left.
Thank you. With all due respect, on the first issue you raised, second one I raised, it didn't address any of my concerns, which was accountability and the ability for citizens to have input, as I was told when I called in, citizens to have input on major spending decisions prior to them happening. And so I don't know if that, I didn't hear that addressed. In terms of the First Amendment audit that was done, I was in a place I was told I could be in. So it wasn't a restriction like that. I understand there's restrictions on the First Amendment. I was abiding by those things. And some of those things sounded like they were in general. So I appreciate that you didn't comment on my situation specifically, because each situation needs evaluated individually. But I can say that it's my understanding that keeping things private and confidential, that I do have a right to record sensitive things from a publicly accessible place, and that it's the township's responsibility to keep those things private. And I will also say that the place I was at the time, I was told that I was allowed to be there by multiple people. Since then, I've been given multiple conflictory information on it. And even though I was told I could be there, I was given an order to leave. So that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate it, and thank you.
All right. Complete? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comments for the evening. Announcement of community events, Mr. Luby.
Delhi Sip and Shop Vendor Fair. It is Friday, November 15th from 6:30 to 10 p.m. It will be at the Delhi Senior Community Center at 647 Neeb Road. Longevity Explorer meeting, talk about aging and its challenges, will be Monday, November 18th from 2 to 3:30 p.m. It will be at the Bailey Fitness Center at 401 Farrell Court. Making the most of the holidays with your family member living with dementia will be Thursday, November 21st at 6:30 p.m., and that will be at the Bailey Enrichment Center at 990 Bailey Drive. The Delhi Holiday Market with Handmade for the Holidays will be Saturday, December 14th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Delhi Senior Community Center at 647 Neeb Road. The Delhi Business Association Christmas Parade will be Saturday, December 7th at 9:30 a.m. on Delhi Pike from Greenwell to Anderson Ferry. That's all we have.
I'm checking something here. Okay, it is December 7th.
Yeah, the parade.
Yeah, for the parade. So hopefully everyone has put in their prayers and offers that we don't have snow, ice, sleet, freezing rain, and that we all enjoy a great day on Delhi Pike for the Christmas parade. Did you have something to add, Mr. Cameron?
Oh, we don't want to rain out.
We don't want to rain out, no, because we know that the chief of police is going to call the rain day. Rain or shine? Okay, all right.
Snow or sleet.
We do have cause for an executive session this evening, so if I could have that motion, please?
Motion to retire to executive session to consider the compensation of public employees of the township, to review negotiations with public employees concerning their compensation and other terms of employment and economic development matters.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Luby, please call the roll.
Mrs. Seavey.
Yes.
Mr. Davis. Mrs. Sturts.
Yes.
All right, the regular session of this meeting will go to executive session at this point. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope we see you Friday night at the Senior Center for a little sip and shop. Thank you.